Hello, I'm Jeff O'Connor, the son of the late Pat O'Connor. If you didn't know, he was a race car driver that came up through the sprint car ranks back in the 50s and had qualified for 5 Indianapolis 500 races and set the pole in 1957. He actually placed 8th twice at Indianapolis. And he actually was being groomed to become the president of the Speedway. At that point in time, he was the only Indiana native that was being successful in professional racing. And he was kind of under the wing of Wilbur Shaw and the late Tony Holman.
How did he get into racing?
He got into racing as a young man, basically driving what in those days was called the jalopies. Basically it was take an old car, knock the fenders off of it, and put a seat belt in and go with it. His first car was actually built by a local gentleman by the name of Bob Creech, who was from North Vernon, and that's where he kind of got his start. And then as he progressed in winning and doing a lot of things on the racetrack that people took notice of, he got into the sprint car deal and had very great success there. As he moved up through those ranks, then he was noticed by other drivers up in the professional ranks and got a chance to try to qualify a car at Indianapolis in 1953. He actually was 38th fastest or something like that. He top 33 cars qualify for the Indianapolis 500, and he wasn't quite fast enough. Other owners had him get into their cars to see if he could qualify those cars because he was that good of a driver, but the cars just weren't fast enough. And then in 1954, he qualified for his first Indianapolis 500, and then qualified in 55, 56, 57, and 58, which 58 was his last race where the accident happened that took his life.
Do you remember, or like stories from your mom of like the first Indy 500 you qualified for? I wonder like what was going on in North Vernon at that time too.
Well, it was obviously big excitement. Back in those days, it wasn't on TV, so people had a lot of picnics in the backyard and had the radio on, and so he was considered pretty much a hometown hero at that time. He had some business ventures that he was working into. The old Pat O'Connor Motel, he was in partners with Bill Gigax, who was a local entrepreneur at that time, and was actually getting ready to open up his own insurance business. And that's some of the stationery that I found when I was digging through some archives. So, but he was, like I said, he was, when he lost his life, he was only 29 years old, so he had things going the right direction.
So, like, back in the day, was being a race car driver, was that not a full-time job position for people?
No, actually, he worked for Webster Chevrolet at the time as a car salesman, and did some other odds and ends things because, back then, obviously cost of living was less, but I believe I've got a note somewhere or a picture of something that's in the program where they give you the prize money that they won. And the year that he placed 8th place, I think he won like $8,000 or something.
Wow.
Nowadays you just qualify for the Indianapolis 500 and you're in the hundreds, thousands of dollars, so or better. So it's come a long, long way. He won the 2 years in the AAA Sprint Car Championship, and then that transcended into what is known now as USAC, United States Auto Club. That was 1956. He won that championship. It was the first year for that, and and then, like I said, just came up through, did a lot of sprint car driving, raced at different tracks all over the country, actually. And so rumor has it that if he had won the 500 that year, he was going to retire from racing. I don't know if he would have retired from trying to run the Indianapolis 500, but as far as the sprint cars and things, he would have retired from that and concentrated on his business ventures and raising family.
Yeah. Do you remember hearing anything about his 8th place finish? It was 1957, right?
In 57 he placed 8th, but he also finished 8th in 56.
Okay. And that's where you make the podium, right? Or the platform?
Yeah. Well, the top 3 is the podium.
Okay.
But if you finish top 10, you've done pretty well, and that's a pretty good achievement. Of course, nowadays you just finish the race and you're still doing all right. But a top 10 finish is considered, pretty good day.
Do you remember anything or like hearing stories about when he placed top 10?
No, that would probably be something from the elders that, and unfortunately a lot of them aren't around anymore. But back in those days, if their goals were to win the race. Yeah. So I'm sure top 10 was, or even the 8th place was a nice accomplishment for him, but they always thought they could do better. Matter of fact, the one year that he placed 8th, he was leading the race and had I think it was like $1.25 part broke on the car and cost him, he broke down and couldn't make it. So that was kind of a letdown, but still to finish 8th was pretty good.
So how do you feel like Pat's remembered here in North Vernon or Jennings County today?
Obviously, I hope in most cases it's a good feeling. I mean, I've never heard anything bad about him. He was 29 years old, so I'm sure they all had their moments in those days and such, but he was evidently well liked and such, and it was, a lot of people were pretty sad, the day that that he lost his life. A lot of people have said they haven't been back to the race since then, but I hope they do get back someday, because to me it's a tribute to go to the race, and during the opening ceremonies there's always a thought out there that I give for him, and thanking him for paving the way for future drivers. Yeah. The year he actually got killed, the next year roll bars became mandatory in the cars. So, and kind of like close to the situation with Dale Earnhardt, unfortunately, when he lost his life in 2000, the next year the Hans device, which is a neck supporting thing, became mandatory. So sometimes it takes a tragedy to help upgrade safety in these cars, and they've come tremendously long way. Yeah.
So to keep his memory alive, you do the Hayden days. Is there any other things people are doing around May? I know I've been seeing his post on social media. Yeah,
I know Lakeside posted a nice little memorial. They've got a little wall out there with some stuff on it, and people will mention it. Typically during the month of May, when they're from the broadcast in Indianapolis, they'll have a blurb that come out once in a while that talks about him and other drivers, obviously. But he, this is the time of year that a lot of people remember, and I'll get phone calls of people wanting to come see the room and such, and it's still in a work of progress. So, but
next year.
Yeah, we'll try next year.
What do you want people to remember most about your dad?
Well, I guess that he was, a good citizen. He was humble. He wasn't an arrogant type of race car driver. He always took time to give the autographs. And matter of fact, there's in the book that Mario Andretti wrote. He said there was 2 autographs that he wanted to get back in the day when he first came to Indianapolis, and one of them was Pat O'Connor's, and I thought that was pretty cool. And then of course A.J. Foyt was a rookie the year that Dad got killed, and he mentions in his book that he didn't ever want to become close friends with race car drivers anymore because it's too hard losing a friend. And he gives him a lot of credit for showing him a way around the track. And if you ever see any interviews on TV, they'll ask him, you know, they had the four-time winners on there at one time, and they asked these guys, what do you do to when you first came to the track? Well, 3 of the 4, they watched videos, they look at technology, and Pat, or AJ said, I went to each corner of the track and watched the cars run, and then I talked with Pat O'Connor. He's something else, and I've been privileged to meet him a couple times. So, but he even told me, you know, I read it and I'd heard it, and the day I met him professionally, he said, he goes, you know, I about quit racing the day your daddy died, and of course he had that Houston. He's from Texas, and he's had that Texan drawl, and I said, well, AJ, I'm really glad that you didn't, because you are the king of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So, so.
What does the Indy 500 mean to your family today, knowing it was a big part of his legacy?
Oh, it's that's what we live for every year. My mom still goes. She just turned 91 in April, and her and my stepdad go up several times during the month, and it's kind of funny because they like sitting down in the food court, and they'll meet people and get talking about this or that, and then all of a sudden she's like a little mini celebrity down there, so which is pretty cool. And she's pretty humble. She wouldn't want to be doing this or being interviewed or anything, but she still loves it. I tell people I work hard from June through April so I can play in May, and I've been to the track several times already this year, and plan on going again for Carb Day, and then we'll get up early and head up for race day.
Is there anything that you would like to say or mention?
No, I'd just like to thank you and everybody in North Vernon for keeping the memory alive. That's usually when I get emotional. But it means a lot to have everybody still remember. So, thank you.